Hey, hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Michael and Manono. Good to have you here tonight. And it's such a day of filled with mixed emotions. So, as I said, Michael, that everything that you have told us this afternoon is completely wiped off. And we wanted to do this so that we can keep this memory and the knowledge, the wisdom, and all your amazing work that you have done with Right to Remain and also working with us individually. So it's 15 years, which is a very long time. And working with you, it's been 4 years, and it's been the best days of my life. I would say that has been my first job in the UK, my first check. So it's been really lovely. So why I decided that we do this is because, like I say, that we really want to keep this information within ourselves. So I'm not going to ask any questions. I am going to ask you about your journey, just in short, for us, where you started, what inspired you to do this kind of work. I believe there's so much that you could have done, but you decided to do this particular job. And yeah, and then I'll also get to ask Manana because she knows you years before I started to work with Right to Remain. I thought she would be the right person to be sitting next to you as we start and we get to know how you guys met and all the impact and differences as well that you have brought to Manono and people like Manono.
It's been an emotional day, and I have been thinking over the last few days about going through all the stuff over the last few years, last 4 years since I've met you, Maggie, the almost 10 years since I've met you, Manono, and the 15 years in the job. But like you asked, like why I do this type of work, and I think I mentioned earlier today that a lot was just to do with my upbringing and my parents and step parents who from a very early age just taught me to respect other human beings and to speak out and act against injustice wherever you see it. And I've tried that, and wherever I can in my life, I used to get beat up all the time when I was a school kid because I was standing up to bullies that were bullying other people, even though I wasn't very strong, so they would bully me instead. But like, I think growing up in the area of Glasgow that I did, very mixed area, lots of people from South Asian communities, Pakistani and Indian communities that were my friends and neighbours. And it was realising what, or finding out from them what racism is from a very early age. And my parents and step-parents were very involved in that politically as socialists and anti-racists and anti-fascists, activists and militants, that I learnt about this. I hadn't really heard of asylum seekers, refugees when I was young because it wasn't a thing, especially in Scotland, that was talked about. But when I moved to England, to south coast, Kent, near Dover, when I was in my 20s, that's when I first met people who were seeking asylum in this country and spoke with them and noticed the horrible racism of my English neighbours. Sorry, British neighbours. It's not because they're English. It's not your fault. That I just kind of got involved in it, and I started volunteering, and I helped with a little youth project for unaccompanied children seeking asylum in Kent. There were people at that time from Afghanistan, from Kosovo, and places like that. And I just thought they're going through a terrible time, and I just want to do whatever I can to help. I was working. I started work as a housing worker. I was working for housing associations, and then I was doing housing and welfare benefits advice for people that were struggling with their housing. When I moved back up to Scotland, the government in that time in 1999, 2000 had started sending people seeking asylum all over the country. They'd never been sent to Scotland before. So when I was there, I was like, oh, I've heard about this in England. I've met these people. I know they're going through a terrible time. But what I found was lots of people in Scotland were just reading the newspapers saying, oh, these asylum seekers coming over here, they're getting loads of money and doing this. So I thought, well, that ain't right. I got to do something to help. So I used my experience of doing housing advice, and I got a job with Scottish Refugee Council where when people got refugee status, I would help them to understand the system and move on to get proper housing and things like that. But from then, I realised that there was more that I could do than just helping people to navigate a tricky system and things. It was like, okay, this isn't right, that this system is not just tricky, it's horrible and full of injustice. So I wanted to find out what I could do, and I kind of carried on from there.
I think what inspired me to do this today was that I know maybe through this video you're going to inspire other people, and if the world we can have 10 more Michaels, this world will be a better place. And this is why I decided this needs to be out there, needs to be heard, that some people will get out of their comfort zone and do something like this and standing for us, people like us, I would say. And then I'll go to Manono. Where do you meet Michael? I wouldn't want to go back to your history and everything else. One thing I love about you, Manono, is that you're one person who's very strong. And one thing, Michael, that has taught me, especially with this kind of work, was that we should not miss an opportunity, and we should not miss the momentum. And every time when I'm working with you, you always do that. And this is why you are dressed like this today. And you were like, you are always creative. You are always having a goal. Like, okay, if this is happening, Maggie, I've heard on the news, this is what they're saying, this is what we need to do. The energy, and having that thing to keep on going beside everything that you're going through, to be creative and always wanting to be out there regardless, that inspired me. And I thought to be the good person to come on the hot seat first. And I want to know, where do you meet Michael?
Okay, I met Michael in Liverpool, and I remember there was a big event about the detention. And I've been in detention, and people, they did not know about that. And I could hear people talking about it, not knowing what is happening when you're in detention. People, they feel like because we are asylum seekers and we are really supposed to be sent to detention. But even though we are asylum seekers, we are not criminals. That when your case is exhausted, you have to go to detention. But this is what I went through. One day I was going for reporting, then they told me that you've been detained. You've overstayed. I said, why? This is something new, because I still have a case pending in court. And they couldn't tell me much till my solicitor said, oh, sorry, I didn't send your appeal to court. Oh, let me do it now. And anyway, she told me, it's too late now. There is nothing else that I can do. Just go home. So the organizations outside, they are the ones that they had to force the solicitor that, no, it wasn't her fault. So I ended up going to detention, and I came out after some time. I was homeless, nowhere to sleep. I was sleeping in a cemetery where you could sit on the tombstone. So when I was out to the event, I met Michael. Michael was there. Then it started from there that we do a lot of public speaking. I remember after that, there was a first one, which he was in solidarity with the women, hunger strike in Yow's Wood. Mm-hmm. So I went to the trade unions in the university where I had my first speech. Then we went to London, to the unions as well, University of London. I can't remember the name. Maybe, Michael, you remember me and Ernest where we went?
I can't remember.
You can't remember, but it was not far from the Euston.
Yeah,
it was you, me, and Ernest.
Yeah.
It wasn't far from the Euston station, because I remember we had to walk. Then we did with the Quakers as well. Then we did Sheffield, we did Newcastle. There was a lot that we did, I did with Michael, which people, they wanted to know more about detention, which I will speak and tell them what is happening in detention. Everyone was really in shock that we don't get to hear all these things. We're thinking that, okay, the asylum seekers have to be sent to the detention. And with that as well, we've covered a lot, like meetings face to face. We'll come, we'll talk about what next to be campaign about, because it wasn't all about housing. As you know, I did campaign in Liverpool about the housing where asylum were living. I did on television, ITV, and it wasn't about that, but also detention. It wasn't all about detention, but we did a campaign about the reporting, about the money, £35 card that we were getting. We've done a lot, really. We've covered a lot with Michael. And for myself to be that confident, like really to be talking, like I always want to voice it out, it was through Michael, These Walls Must Fall, because they had to, come on, don't be shy, talk. Because if you don't talk, people, they will not know what is happening.
Yeah, but you spoke out that first time before we'd even spoken.
Yeah,
We were at
that's
that
true.
event.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was what you said and the way that you said it really struck me and made me think that this is the way that we need to go. This was at an event by an academic friend of mine called Vicky Canning, who had done a lot of research into state violence and criminology and the racism of the state, especially around migrants. And like, I really liked the work that she did, and she launched it at this event in Liverpool. And I went along. It was maybe the first time that I met Vicky. She was also working with a group in Liverpool called MAMA, Migrant Artists Mutual Aid. So she was bringing a really good, important, insightful, researched analysis of how this thing all works together. MAMA, Migrant Artists Mutual Aid, were using art and singing and all sorts of creativity to get the message out there a little bit. And then when I was speaking to Manono, and it was like, at that time, the Voices of Lived Experience in asylum and migration was basically a charity or an NGO like mine would go to somebody and say, we want to campaign on this issue. Can you tell us about all the horrible things that's happened in your life? And can you say it over and over and over again? Can you keep saying it? And I was like, well, you can't just keep repeating the story of your oppression. But when you opened up about that, I was like, this story needs to be told. But I can't go to this woman and say, can you just come along and help me in my campaign by relating your oppression and your trauma? I wanted people like yourself to be taking my position, and I can help you with it, but to be able to not just talk about your experience, but talk about, look, this is wrong because I know it from my experience. I know what it's like. You have no idea what it's like to be to experience this. But also, it doesn't have to be like this. It should be like this. It should be another way. And that was it. And it was inspiring other people in your situation to go, yeah, I've been through that and I'm going to speak out. But also going beyond just the storytelling, using your storytelling in a way that builds your power to change things. And that's what we've been trying to do. That's why the These Walls Must Fall project came out. It was about shifting that power. The power that we had as a white-led, mostly British charity established organisation. We had this power and privilege, and it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do with it? How can we shift that? How can we pass that on and let other people use it and build it in a way? And it's helping you guys to realise your power and use it, because I've just learned so much from you guys.
I did learn so much, because I remember we formed a group, and this group was only for the people lived experience. And I know some people, they were like refused and they were saying, go back to your country. And some people were like in asylum, they really like in a shock that because they wasn't expecting to live the way they were living that time. And some people like they've been to detention. So it was like a group of 9 people who have lived experience, and we're like meeting in every 2 weeks and we share what we're going through. Yes, I've.
I think whilst you're at it, Manono, one thing that I've realized, these are quite difficult conversations to have. I think, like Mr. Panyika said, I said that emotionally training for you, the storyteller, and the person who's helping you. And to think that Micah has been doing this for the past 15 years. And we had a witness today, the lady that came with Mr. Panyika, you couldn't even remember her. But it's the good act of kindness that gets stuck with the person's mind, even if they don't see you or even if they don't get to meet you again, is having that good and positive impact on a person's life. For me personally, my regret is we are in the world of technology where everything is going fast. We are talking about AI now. The past years that I've worked with Michael, my regret is not to have something like this where we would sit down and we talk about these things and let them go out there for the world to see and get to know people who are doing positive things and contributing positively in the community and making a difference. But if you look at the news about hate and all that, they just go extremely fast like wildfire. So this is my regret, and this is why I said I'll do this in your memory, in your honor. I hope I'll be strong to carry
That's a
on
very
and
good
keep on
memory.
doing this and have different people coming in the platform and talking about these issues, because this is another way of telling our stories. If we don't tell them, someone else will tell them, but they won't tell them the way we experience them. Manono always says that. Always say, I'm always being called here and there, but one thing that I know is that one day someone will tell this story in my absence, and they're not going to say the truth, the whole truth. So going back to my cow before Manono steps back to her seat, we started you guys, because I was not part of Right to Remain then. You started as Nakdak, as Mr. Panyika said, and then evolved to Right to Remain, and then the toolkit started as a physical toolkit that was helping people, and then now, like I'm saying, that technology is just taking over. We are now having the toolkit online. Tell me about the transaction, the impact as well during that time. And I think Vicky as well had some contribution, because we've got the board game, even though it's really difficult to get it updated.
Yeah.
But I got one from the office when I went to London. I said I wanted to keep it for myself. I wish I had brought it here. So tell me about the transaction.
Yeah. Okay, so the lady that you spoke about today that came reminded me that she was saying that the help that I'd given her individually to get to Liverpool, to get to the Home Office, to prepare her papers, to know what to say and how to address it. And I put a lot of effort into that one individual to try and help her to fight her case, and she won it. And it was at that time that we started thinking, and I was thinking, and in our organisation, we're thinking, look, we're only helping a tiny number of people here. And they're still coming to us and saying, please, please, please help me, please help me. I'm like, we need to change these things. And so we started doing a bit of community consultation, and we went to Manchester and Liverpool and Sheffield and Glasgow and Swansea and spoke to people who were going through the system. We spoke to groups like WAST in Manchester and Manchester Migrant Solidarity. And it was someone at one of those meetings that said, look, we're helping each other. We're using the Right to Remain toolkit, this guide to the asylum and immigration system. But the government is going faster than us. Every time we learn something, they change the rules and they make it harder, harder, harder. So unless we start changing that system, we're in effect going backwards. So we need to be focusing on changing that system. But then when I spoke to these groups, I said, look, okay, we want to be changing the system. Do you want to join this thing? But most people naturally are like, yeah, okay, but my biggest thing in my life is I need to be safe and secure because they might deport me at any time. So what are you going to do about that? And that's why we needed to have the two things together. So there was the legal education so that you understand your rights, and also the techniques and methods that people had worked out of, this is what you need to do to beat that system or to survive in this system. You do it this way and you need someone to help you with this. So we gathered all this information and started putting it into a resource. to say, okay, we want to change the system, but we will work with community groups and say, do you want to come on this journey with us and try and change this system? Yep, okay, well, if you want to do that, we will help your community, your group, to look after yourselves, look after each other, and fight for your own cases in the system at the same time. And I think that was the big thing for me that maybe made us a little bit different, because we weren't just coming saying, we'll do casework for you, we're the experts, we'll sort out your case. We're not lawyers, we understand the law, but we're not lawyers. But also we weren't just going as a campaigning organisation and saying, yeah, your lawyer will sort you out, can you come and speak about your trauma again? We didn't want to do it that way, and it was trying to do these two things together with an ethos, a spirit of solidarity and mutual aid, like mutual aid, helping each other, because the state isn't helping you, the charities aren't doing it properly, you've probably not even got a lawyer to help you, or if you have, they're doing it in a very disempowering way. So it was all about that. It was about trying to bring all these things together, and that took us a year, 12 months of doing hardly anything else except going around the country and listening to people, finding out what people were doing, what worked for them, and what kind of approach that they would do. So we were very lucky to have a funder, a charitable trust that funded us, and we said, look, we don't know what's going to come out of this. We kind of got an idea. Can you give us some money so that we can find out from these people what will work? And that's kind of where we got to, and that was... And one other thing is that we piloted it in Manchester for 6 months. We worked with a group of people with lived experience and went, okay, you're all feeling confident now, you're ready to go campaigning, let's have a public meeting and invite lots of allies, lots of British people that will come in and help. And we did that after 6 months, and all the British people, they were doing it in the best way, but they took over. And they were like, oh, yeah, you guys are great. What you need to do is you need to set up a committee. You need to speak to this person. You need to do it this way. You need to have the placards that look like this. And we were like, whoa. And everybody that I saw that were growing in confidence, speaking out for the first time, they all started to sort of shrink in and go, okay, we'd better listen to these expert campaigners and things. I was like, no. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's start again and let's build up. And then you can present it to people on your own terms. And I didn't know what those terms were going to be. I just wanted to facilitate a space where folk could work it out for themselves. And that's what I've always tried to do.
And it worked. It's been working for over the years.
Yeah.
And speaking about that, when it comes to Manono, we went to Liverpool. We were doing signing support. And then there's this one gentleman who came out and he was like, oh, this is what is happening to me. I don't know what to do. Spontaneously, Manono just like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And then this gentleman was like, but you told me you are still in the process. How come you've got so much information? And how are you going to help me? Why are you helping me? Like, the guy seemed so confused. Like, and everything that Manono was telling him, that this is what you need to do. And when he went through the toolkit, he found it. So for Manono, like having that knowledge, I feel like if I was someone like you in your shoes, feeling like my own things are taking time, why do I have to have all this energy and go out there and help people, and other people will just get their own documents or whatsoever and they carry on with their lives, but you still stand strong and you're always willing to help people. And the knowledge that you have with the toolkit inspires me. Like, how did you, like, at the end of it all, when you get home, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel happy. At least I've helped someone who's going to be happy out there, enjoying her freedom or him freedoms. What I do is I've faced a lot of challenges doing what I do, helping other people. I must not lie. Some people, even the people that I'm helping, they will tell me, but why is it that you are helping us and you yourself, you're not getting your papers? You understand? And not only that, professional people, they will ask me ideas and I'll tell them. Then they'll just leave me there, like, but you are still a asylum seeker. So that for them, they are benefiting from that. You understand? Because I remember one organization, they contacted me, oh, we want to work with you. And I was working with them. Since they started to get what they wanted, they started to remind me that I'm an asylum seeker. But to tell you the truth, when they help people and they get the papers, when I'm helping people and they get their papers, I'm always over the moon. I know that I'm here to help them one day to be mine. Yeah.
Thank you, Manono. I think that's not something different that I've not heard before. I think we've been talking about this with Fatou, and we've been fighting that it's time to own our spaces, own our stories in our own terms and in our own ways, whilst in the process helping other people. Thank you so much.
No worries.
I'll ask Fatou
No
to
worries,
come
yeah.
through. Okay, Michael, you're in the hot seat today.
Yeah.
I've got your favorite person next to you.
I'm in between my two favourite I've got so many friends around me today.
You see? So I think I thought about everyone who's here today, the impact of community, community organizers, people who are still in the system that you helped or you are still helping because they said you're not going anywhere, and other organizations that we both worked with that have always asked us to step in or ideas and ask for help. GMIAU came to mind, and I spoke to Dennis, and he was like, she was like, I know Michael from a long time ago.
Yeah.
I've got history with GMIAU. They were my solicitors. Then Ryan is the one who saw the vacancy from Right to Remain and sent it to me. And then now I get to work with Fatou. One thing I would say about Fatou and with our community organizing is that while I will refer back to what Mr. Panika said, it really touched me that this job is overwhelming. It's tiring. It's not a 9-to-5 job where I'll get home, I'm like, I'm done, I'm going to bed. When I get home, I have to think about people that I failed to help. I have to think about what I need to do tomorrow. Maybe this you carry it with you, and my every Monday, my every cup of tea on a Monday is Fatou. It's the energy. And it's something that I would really encourage anyone who's doing this kind of work to have a buddy, whether it's in the same area or in a different city, someone you can always come back and share the problems and feel the light word. So, Michael, you were working with Lisa, who is your partner for so many years, even when I started to work with Right to Remain. How were you offloading? How, like, to be honest, it's a burning question. I know it may sound inappropriate, but I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
I'm really trying to think, like, when you get home, on a serious note, were you able to kind of, you know what, let's forget about these people. This is our time.
Not able to forget about it, but like I've been working at Right to Remain for a few years, for about 3 years, I think, and then Lisa came and joined. And then we worked together for a year or so. I was in Scotland and she was in London. And then I moved to London and then things happened and, you know, like, then we became an item and moved in together. Yeah, this work is really exhausting and emotionally draining at times. And you could talk about it 24 hours a day, about the injustice of this and this shouldn't happen and that. And we at home have always had very strict rules, and we forget them sometimes. And there would be times when, you know, you come home to your partner, how was your day? Oh God, this happened, and oh, it was really... And then we'll allow each other a little bit and then go, that's it. She's better at it than me because I forget and I just like, go. And she'd be like, okay, yeah, that sounds tough. Should we watch a film now or something? And we give each other a little check, just be careful. And that's not just so that we're not just talking to each other about it. It's to give ourselves a little bit of time off and just to remind ourselves, hey, you should stop thinking about it for a little bit if you can.
Yeah, and thank you so much. It's really important. I think the past few months have been really difficult for us, especially doing community organizing with the racial attacks that happened and everything else. It was, Fatou was like, I think we need a meeting with organizers. And we did one where we had to call people and talk about the aftermath of the racial attacks. Like, and Fatou kept on going back to say, I think we need to talk to organizers and see how everyone is doing. That is why I'm asking that question, the importance of aftercare.
Yeah.
So Fatou,
Yes,
we have been together in this journey with Michael. I'll start with your inspiration and also the question leading to aftercare, the importance of aftercare, emphasizing on the capacity of support as well and this work we're doing.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's just been a really emotional day. I'm gonna try and keep my emotions together, but it's really interesting that Maggie asked you that question. How do you maintain like that self care? How do you not talk about work? Because for us, like it's our lived experience, and we cannot leave work at work, and we cannot leave home at home, because it always comes with us, because it's part of our identity in the UK. One thing I'll say is very important for us to do check-ins. It's important for us to hold each other accountable. And I was thinking, what can I ask Michael? Because you're constantly on the go. Like, you're always coming with the vibe. You have the right energy. Maybe it's just the northern in you, the Scottish in you. But how do you... I know you asked me a question, but I want to ask Michael a question before answering the question. How do you maintain burnout?
I sometimes feel absolutely exhausted, upset, depressed, can't carry on. And that's without having any lived experience. That's just from my relationships with you guys. I think you have to accept that nobody's a super person when it comes to this. Like, I am just in awe at yourself and Maggie and the people that I've met through this work, that are going through this stuff, still going through this stuff, and managing to keep going and keep fighting and keep inspiring other people. I don't know how people do it. I guess it's just...
Come on, Michael, you've been doing it for what? Over how many years?
Yeah, well, I mean...
15 years at Right to
15 years at Right to Remain, about, 20 odd years in total, 25 years or something in total.
Yeah.
It's just something that I feel very, very strongly about, and I can't give it up. I couldn't do another job. Well, I mean, I could do another job that was something about fighting against things. I have done other jobs, I've not always done this. But this is where I found, like, I don't know, my place, my home is with the communities like I've been with today, that just keep inspiring me to keep going. That's what keeps me going, like, is knowing that there are people that shouldn't have to be strong every single day. It's not fair to be, you're so strong, you're strong every day. Well, nobody should have to be strong every day.
Yeah.
But you guys have had to be, and you have to keep it going. So I don't know. You've asked me, how do you keep it going?
Michael, I rely a lot on talking to... I have an amazing team and amazing line manager. And the first time I had burnout in this sector, I didn't even know it was burnout. I was just really tired. I was doubting myself. I was questioning so many things. And everyone have a why. And I don't want to cry. Everyone have their whys, and we all know why we do things. But it got to a point where I was just like, I don't think this is for me. I don't think I should represent people. I was not fully true to myself, because I'm just like, why am I tired? Because this is my life. This is the life of people I'm supporting. So I shouldn't be tired. But then it was my team that recognized it was a burnout. And they're like, okay, I think you need time out. And that's one thing we don't really get. Not a lot of people in our sector actually do have that. Like, people that will hold you or keep you grounded, or people that will literally help you identify or understand that this is going to be 10 times as worse for you. For instance, like the racial riots, when it happened, it did not just attack our migration journey. Some of us attacked our identity, our religion, our professions. And it's just like, who am I going to turn to? And if you don't have your team or the people that you're organizing with, it will be really difficult for you to just lay it out, or navigate that. I remember me and Maggy was on the phone when that happened. And I'm just grateful that she's in my life. And earlier when I said like I cannot talk about Michael without talking about Maggy, because Maggy is so great and amazing because of you. So
Come on. Well, tell you what though, as soon as I met you, I thought, and I said to Maggie, we were having difficulty with our funding. We weren't getting the resources in our team. Maggie's colleagues had gone and not been replaced, and it was just me and her. And I was like, you need to buddy up with this one. She's good, right? And because like I can't give Maggie what you can give Maggie, you know, like, and like that was it. I was like, yeah, hang out with this one. Like,
yeah,
this
Maggy is like my G.
Make me cry. Thank you so much, Fatou. I think one thing that we have done so many more amazing things. And anyway, you guys, I've got some awards and all that you were not telling me about. And then it gets to come out that, okay, they nominated you. This is coming from GMIAU. This is coming from such and such a place. But I've been really honored. And sometimes when you're doing things, and the team as well, this was must fall. It's such an honor to be recognized and be acknowledged the work that you do. So it always strikes me, especially when we talk about people who are just doing this voluntary work. I hope Tanya and Vicky would love to go on the seat just for 5 minutes, because I've got this anyway. Nina answered some of it to kind of during that time talking about where you really got the burnt out. I was like, how about someone who's just doing this job voluntarily and who's just waking up in the morning and wanting to help people? We went to Dallas Court when the Rwanda issue came out. We were outside by the guard, and all of a sudden we had Cole, we had Lily, we had other people coming in, and we didn't call them. You know, there's that thing of humanity that you see being displayed to an extent that I even forget how I got there. I was like, oh my God. I was just now admiring everything that was happening, and the spirit of community and people coming together has kept me going. So I've learned a lot from Michael, and that good reputation that always pops up when we talk about you, or we're meeting the MPs recently with Fatou. I think we have met 6 within this month, last month, 6 going to 7. And then when we went to Afzal Khan, it was like, keep up doing the work you're doing. This was must fall. You guys, you've been there, you've been doing this. And then Fatou as well. We couldn't get those positive compliments. And then when we got back, we're like, okay, Maggy, we're doing this next month. Where are we going? But when we were going there, we were tired. We went to Bolton first. We went to Bolton, and then our next appointment was going to be at 3. And from Bolton around 10, 11, we were kind of tired. We wanted to eat and all that. So we're kind of dragging our feet. But when we go to Afzal Khan, he stood up, greeted us while we were sitting down. It's being recognized by the community, by people who are up there about the work that you're doing. And this is why, Michael, we said we want to do this, so that even if you go, you know that you had a big impact in Manchester. You touched so many lives. You touched so many organizations. And all the good compliments that we are getting out there is because of you. All the awards that we got and that are still coming, it's all because of you. And if we can, I keep on reporting, if we can have 5 more Michaels, I think this world will be a better place.
Amen.
Well, we just need 5 more Maggies. That is.
Okay, so
Let me just say something before I go. One thing we don't really do as a community, we don't give people their flowers when they should get their flowers. I think they should have been done way before. Michael decided to have the long holiday, like I've been telling my daughter. But I'm sure
It's not
Michael
like
will
I'm
be
dying.
back. No, you're not going anywhere yet, Michael. You're having a long holiday where you're going to have a long break and come back stronger.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Fatou.
Thank you.
Don't cry.
Oh, Michael, you can't go, man. What the hell?
Oh,
Tanya, do you want to join us? Okay, all right. Okay. It's been a long day, a day full of emotions. And back to Tanya. I know sometimes they always say when you're doing good things, you forget. But I'll not forget. When I was starting to organize in Manchester, I've said it in the afternoon. I told Michael I've forgotten everything we said. I only forgot what Michael said, but not what I said. So when I was starting organizing, and then we arranged the meeting, you come. We had some beautiful banners, and you were helping around. You were just on top of the game. And when I went back home, I was still thinking, oh, wow, she's such a lovely lady and all that. And then it was what I saw, but it wasn't about an hour or two. And then later on, I got to find out about how much you are working with Manchester No Borders, and also, I think, with Manchester 10 as well campaign and other work. And also, we could not have any function or any event without having to mention No Borders or taking you along. But the first person or the face of No Borders at that moment, the person that I met was you. And you are the person that really inspired me, especially when it comes to community and bringing people together. I was like, okay, if No Borders are coming, then obvious other organizations will come. So that kept me going, even with my organizing. When Michael says, Nikki, let's do this, I'm like, okay, I'm fine. As long as No Borders says yes, everyone else will come. So I want to get to know the inspiration behind your work, and also what inspired you to do what you're doing. Reflecting with the last video, I'll come back to that one. But the inspiration of this work.
That's a big question, and a very generous introduction, I think. I feel like I'm sitting amongst the greats of the kind of world of organising, so this feels like such an honour, and I feel like such a baby in this in this organising world. I think I kind of feel like my inspiration feels really similar to something you said earlier, Michael, about the people you organise with. As soon as you have those connections with people, you can't stop fighting for justice when you know people who are going through the kinds of injustice that we see with borders and with the hostile environment. I think once those people, you're connected to them for life, and you can't just turn away from that and say, okay, I'm kind of done with this now. And I think that I feel really lucky to have met you, Maggy, and met people like Fatou as well, and organise alongside you guys, and meet so many of the people. Like today, the event we had today was just so beautiful, and I think that I feel it's been such a privilege and an honour to know so many different people, and learn so much from them. And I think that's actually something I wanted to ask you, Michael, in terms of, I think your organiser has gone through so many different iterations, right? Like with the Unity Project and Right to Remain. And I'm so inspired by the work that you've done and that you've committed your life to. And I think that it's such a testament to that work to see all the people say so many beautiful things today about you. And I kind of am curious to kind of understand from you, what have you, how there's obviously been so many different iterations, so many changes, but obviously so many things also have stayed the same. And are there certain things that you keep coming back to that kind of hold you to this work and in different forms?
Yeah. I think I've continual learning. You mentioned No Borders and the Unity Centre in Glasgow. So I came from a kind of like an old school British, because I'm British, or Scottish, organising background. It was like class struggle, it was British socialism and things. When I started organising with people not from Britain, it totally opened my eyes of the different ways, the different types of relationships that can get built when you're organising. So for example, there was me and one friend from Germany. We set up the first No Borders group in Britain, right? We pretended to be a group, a collective. We called ourselves a collective. There was just two of us. She'd done it in Germany. She came over. She was living in Edinburgh. She came to visit me in Glasgow, and she was like, "We should do this thing." I was like, "Okay." So we started putting out all this propaganda and leaflets and calling things. And from that, we did it for about a year or maybe 2 years as No Borders Glasgow, No Borders Scotland group. And then we started going to the Home Office Reporting Centre in Glasgow and saying, like, protesting against the Home Office, against Borders. And we met these people that were saying, thanks very much for standing up for us, but actually, can you help us with some stuff? Because, like, we have to go into that place and it's really horrible and they treat us like this, and we just need to get our papers, and then we'll join with you because we're really worried about not getting our papers and all that. So we had just started a tour of Britain to set up, to help other groups that wanted to set up No Borders groups in Britain. So we went to London, Manchester, Birmingham, places like that, and said to groups, yeah, this is how you do a No Borders group. This is how we did it. But actually, we're stopping it now. And they were like, what? And we called the first British conference, and all people came to Glasgow, and it was like 200 people came, and they were all going, we've got a new group. And we said, yeah, we just folded ours because we met all these asylum seekers and said, can you do something else instead, please? And that was it. They just said to us, like, it's all very well you protesting, but, like, can you help, if you help me get my papers and you help this person get their papers, we do that all together, and then that's part of a bigger thing. So they invited us to meetings, and we just learnt the way, oh, is that how the Sri Lankans do it? Oh, is that how the Liberians do it? Is that how the Zimbabweans do it? They're really up on their bureaucracy and taking minutes, the Zimbabweans. And it was like, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. And, like, I was, okay. It doesn't have to be this language, this thing, these preconceived ideas. And it was just about that. And so for me, it's constantly learning from different cultures, different ways of resistance and organising, that you just find out, okay, yeah, maybe my granddad might have thought he was like the bee's knees back in, in the day with his trade union, but he didn't meet these people from Zimbabwe that really know how to do it kind of stuff or whatever. So, like, yeah, for me, it's constantly learning this cross-pollination of ideas, strategies, tactics, and the human contact from that is this just a big thing for me. Just being, like, when people that were seeking asylum just said, we were like, we'll book a meeting hall somewhere. And they said, just come round to our flat. And I go, no, I can't come round to your flat. And they go, that's where we do stuff. And you'd go round and there'd be like 30 people sitting in the tiny little council flat room and giving you loads of food. And you go, no, please don't give us food. We brought food for you. And they're going, don't insult us, eat our food. And I was like, okay. So, like, yeah, that changed the way that I did things, that I looked at things when it came to organising, campaigning and stuff.
I was going to say that's so interesting, because I think the work that I've done or experienced through going to Dallas Court and meeting people at Dallas Court, I think probably had a similar effect, that as soon as you are in community with people and meet people, and there are things that need to be done in that moment, that there are certain support that people might just need because that's what they need in that time, and then you start to build a relationship with people, and then you can start to work out like those longer term things, and not going in with this agenda and this like set of ideas or ideals that you think you can implement, but actually really working with people and that growing together, and it's all, the foundation is community, right? And we can't do any of this work and do any of this work effectively or if we're not in community with people. And I think that's why like your work is so inspiring in that, because you clearly like look at all the people who came out today just to talk about how much of an impact you've had on their lives, right? Like that doesn't happen to everyone who does this work, because not everyone does this work like you do it.
That's so very true. I remember when I refer back after the impacts of Rwanda, because soon after that, we're having members who were so fearful that they will be sent to Rwanda. And we had to work overtime, hard, around the clock, campaigning against that. And then it was stopped. We campaigned against the babies Stockholm, and it was stopped. And then after that, when we're trying to catch a breath, and then the racial attacks happened, and it's all on us because we know the people who are going through this thing. They're no longer just people, they're now friends, they're now family. And maybe as your last word, or what would you encourage us as we remain in organizing? We just spoke about that. Fatou was saying that sometimes maybe we don't give flowers, people their flowers while they're still within the system or working with us. Once you are gone, we are still going to feel the impact. I feel like it. Manono already said that Liverpool is already weighing down. Sheffield Booker said so as well. We're still going to feel that impact of you leaving. But what can you say that can continue to bring us together, not only as organizers, but the people that we are working with, who are still in the system, who still need that care, love at the same time, and people like Manono who still want to tell their stories, but in a dignified place, because that's one challenge that we also having, to find a space where you can tell your story in a dignified manner and be treated like that as well. So what is it that you can just like she was saying she was going to ask about after all this, if you are looking at us in Manchester in 6 months time or 1 year and be proud that okay, these guys were actually listening.
When you talk about telling your story, I think you have to always remember that your story hasn't ended. Tell your story into the future as well. The story of what you're striving for, and that's not just a personal thing, because you can't go through this life on your own, and you can't go through this asylum process and immigration process on your own. Well, you shouldn't try to. But always the thing about telling your story is be looking to the future, right? Not be talking about this bad thing happened to me, this bad thing's happened to me now. It's been like, it shouldn't have to be like this. We're going to do something about this, because that's when you'll bring other people along. And you do need to be bringing in allies from all communities, because this country is a deeply racist country, and I'm not saying everyone in this country is racist, obviously they're not, but the country is set up in a way that it is. That needs to be challenged, and that's a big fight, because it's been going on since the country was invented. And it's a constant struggle. But there are loads and loads of people out there just waiting to be led by you guys. Loads of people who I think maybe, probably I've helped to this, but I've helped by learning from so many people I've worked with over the years, is that there are people standing back now, because I and others have told them to, hey, don't step in and speak for these people, these communities. Don't step in and tell them what the strategy is here. Going and listen and be part of it and learn. And I think that just to know that there are loads and loads of people ready for that, and they're quite rightly taking their time and stepping back and waiting for you. You might be waiting for them, but just go and find them. They're out there. And I think the way that you frame these things is like, don't be going to people and asking for the support, saying, please help me, I'm very weak and I need your help. It's like, your struggle is part of the struggle for social justice in the world. It's a struggle against racism, it's a struggle against colonialism and imperialism, it's a struggle against capitalism and all these exploitations and oppressions. You have to position yourself as being part of that struggle, because for far too long, especially in this country, the issues of immigration and asylum and nationality and what have you has been set aside as one separate thing that's not an actual social justice issue. It's kind of a problem that needs to be dealt with. And governments will say, oh, we'll deal with this problem. It's human beings, like, it's the world. And they'll be like, oh, we'll sort out this problem. But even people that are supportive, whether it's from a charity or whether it's left-wing type people, they still come in this way that reinforces the state racism and of Britain by saying like, oh yes, there is a problem and we've got the answer to it and we will sort out this problem, rather than saying that this problem is part of a bigger thing. And you have to join up these struggles. if it's, you know, just all the struggles for social justice, for equality and freedom need to be joined up. And it's shocking that that the issue of migration and asylum has been pushed away as some other kind of problem, rather than being part of the whole sort of social justice movement that we're all fighting for. Do it in that way, talk about it in that way, as you do already, because I see that the impact that has on people. It changes the way that people will respond to you and will act in solidarity in a more powerful way that will be more helpful for you, I think.
Thank you, Michael. 5 minutes in wrapping. Tanya, how did you get to a point where you get to understand these impacts? Because I don't know, before, people you're working with, it's only now that we get to work together with Vicky, and we had to do pairing up buddies, especially after the racial attacks, because our friends wanted to speak to other people, not us, maybe someone different, as they were going through that process. And one, it's helpful in a way that even when going to court, it's friendship that have been formed, and you also getting to know them by their names. How did you get, like, if you can tell someone, how do you get to really understand what does it take? And lastly, I want to acknowledge you. It's the second time when we went to Durham, we had to hold a moment of silence about the people who are passing on, especially through these dangerous border systems that are put in place intentionally because of this dehumanizing system and hostile environment. And the last vigil that you organized in Manchester, St. Peter's Square, for Theo now, he's been named. Our guy is Theo, who passed on in Brook House, having that thing to say, I want to organize, I want to do this, and knowing people by their names, and valuing them and opening that space for that in 2 minutes.
I think with things like the vigil and the holding space for like a moment's silence, I think feels so important, because we know that ultimately the way in which these systems are built and the way in which these systems operate is that people are dying, people are being killed, and we don't want to talk about death. Death is a horrible thing to talk about and a horrible thing to have to think about, but that is the direct result of borders and of this system, right? And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to remember the people who die. And what's hard, and what is hard in things like the vigil, when we held the vigil, we didn't know Theo's name. And to hold a vigil for someone and you don't know anything about them apart from their age and where they died is really difficult. And to hold space for that and all the pain, and you know, we weren't sure how many people were going to come, and a lot of the people who did come to that vigil had lived experience of the immigration system, many also of like detention, and that's a lot to kind of sit with. And it was a really, really emotional and emotive evening, but it felt really important because we didn't know his name, we didn't know anything about Theo's life, but we have to commemorate that. And what's difficult is that there are so many more people who die in the Channel, like in so many other places, but we don't know their names, we don't know their stories, and that is what we're fighting for, right? Like, no one should have their lives cut short, no one should have their lives impacted, no one should have the health impacts of being constantly stressed and constantly having the threat of deportation like held over them. There's so many impacts, and deaths at the border are like the extreme end of them, but we have to remember them, we have to acknowledge them, as well as all the other impacts that that has. So that's why that felt really important to do, even though it's really, really difficult. And I think the protest we had in Durham, there was so much, there was also so much community spirit and so much joy, and it's sometimes difficult to kind of to move away from that and say, actually, we need to just also hold silence and kind of the other end of it, because community is important, and that's what keeps us going. We should never, ever, ever stray away from, we never want to have a narrative which doesn't account for joy and account for community, but we also have to do the remembering of the worst things that do happen. and name it, that this is that is what the state has done. That's not a thing that happened. That is a thing that was done to someone. Someone has died. Someone has been killed by these systems that we're fighting against. And that's also what fuels us to keep going, right? Like that's what we have to use as the fire in us to keep fighting against these systems and fighting for justice. So I think, yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Michael. And I'm so grateful to have people like you, to have met people like you, like Michael, like Tanya, like Vicky, like Teresa, everyone. For my own benefit, I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful for the space that we have created to talk about this difficult. And I feel like these conversations needs to go on. And Michael, I'll try my best to keep these conversations going on. And I've always said, especially when I'm talking to the team, to say, I've met amazing people who can help you, or I've met amazing people who can do good, and they have not seen them, they have not met them. Sometimes it feels like I'm lying. So I really want this space. I want this space to keep on going, so that when I meet someone that I feel like is great and has good impact in the community, I can always bring them, and my team get to know them, and other people as well nationally get to know them. Michael Collins, now we know your name after 15 years. And then TJ and Zizi, they've got a gift for you.
What?
I want to ask him a question.
Quick.
You got 2 minutes.
Quick.
So I want to ask him, in his journey of advocating for everybody's right, like what is his moments of achievement, and what of his achievement? Yeah. And how do you hope to see those efforts, and how do you want them to be shaped and in the future?
Okay. Wow. Okay. I guess like one of the big things for me was when we decided to start. Well, not when we decided. When we started to develop These Walls Must Fall. And something that's stuck in my mind ever since. We had one of the first meetings when we were speaking to people with lived experience in Manchester, and this guy said to me he didn't have the best English, and he was struggling to communicate, but he did it so well. And he said, when we were coming up with the name, we'd suggested These Walls Must Fall, and that's a whole story behind that. But what he said was he really liked it, and he was trying to describe it. He said, because it's not just the walls of the detention centres, because we can't even see them from Manchester. He said it's the walls within our minds. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I've been in detention, but I can't talk about it, I can't think about it, and I've got a wall within my mind, and now I feel that I can talk about it, and that's powerful. And he said also the walls within our hearts between it. And I was like, whoa, you said you can't speak very good English, and you've just said all these amazing things. And it was like that, the walls are real, but he was talking about the walls within himself and within us, within our hearts as a community. And I was like, yeah, okay, we're sticking with that name, even though no one else likes it. I really like it now. And that was, for me, it stuck with me for quite a few years.
There you go.
Oh, what? You got this? But this is today. Oh my goodness. Oh, my family. Oh, I love you guys.
You've got another one here.
Oh. With you guys dressed as prisoners, you crazy people. Oh, thank you. I'm not going to cry.
Please don't. You can't live without Michael.
Oh.
And please don't switch off your phone.
No, I'm never. You know I don't answer my phone, but it's never switched off. Oh, thank you guys. I love you so much. This has been the best ever. Thank you.
Tanya will give you a hand. You've come too far.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you.
Oh. Okay, we finished. Can I go home now?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, everybody. That was really lovely. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
I've got to take this home on the train, yeah?
There was a bad